forget to rate our show and subscribe.
Before we begin this podcast, if you or someone you know is in crisis or needs emotional support, there are tools that can help. So get yourself a pen and paper or open a note-taking app on your phone or computer. Feel free to pause this episode while you get yourself ready. The episode starts at 1 minute and 52 seconds. You can call Talk Suicide Canada at 1-833-456-4566. You can text 45645, which is coming in the fall of 2023. In Canada, you can also call 988, the Kids Help Phone at 1-800-668-6868. The Trans Lifeline in Canada is 1-877-330-6366. And in the United States, 1-877-565-8860, or call 911. You are not alone, and you do not have to be alone. I would like to honor and recognize the traditional and unceded territories of the Katzie, Kwantlen, and Semiahmoo nations on whose territory I live, work, and play. Welcome to We Are the ADHD Family Podcast. This podcast is meant to chronicle our journey with ADHD, autism, and other discoveries along the way. I reach out to advocates, experts, individuals, and other families that want to raise their voices and empower those on their journey. My name is Mark Smeets, and I am passionate about removing barriers for others through creating connections and building on strengths and practical problem solving. I am married to Siobhan, a parent of 2 wonderful kids, and all of us have ADHD. I want you to feel like you have power and hope. And now, into the episode. Welcome to another episode. I am your incredibly handsome host, Mark Smeets, and I hope you're doing well. I thought in the spirit of the journey that I posted with my family and what we went through to get a diagnosis, let's talk survival strategies. How do you manage your life when the hard times are really hard? What are the things that you can do? I've got a whole bunch of practical advice lined up from our experiences, and I really do hope that this helps you on your journey and takes some pressure off of you and your family. I want to start with a scenario and dive right into a story. After that story, that's when we're going to get into all the practical tips. So let's talk about a scenario that my wife and I went through. And years ago, back in 2015, both my father and mother-in-law were in the hospital. We realized my father-in-law, well, we were pretty sure he had dementia. My mother-in-law had to have her toe removed because of some sort of diabetic condition. That it was lupus, I can't quite remember at this point. There were a whole host of other very stressful things in the situation that my in-laws had found themselves in, or rather put themselves in, and I'm not going to get into that, but it was serious. We were concerned. Well, we were beyond concerned. And to say that my wife was stressed out would be an understatement. To say that both of us were stressed out would be that much more of an understatement. But I think this is a really good example to use because we weren't home much. We were trying to juggle, well, life with a 1.5 or 2-year-old. I can't remember how old Owen was at the time. And we weren't home much at all. Where I worked, basically what should be if you had no lights, no nothing, it could be like a 20-minute drive. Unfortunately, my commute actually took me probably anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 to 4 hours. It depends on the traffic. I had to cross over I had the choice of either crossing over one bridge or I could go over 2 to 3. Just depends. And then coming home, it was like I had the commute from hell. I hated it. But with Owen being so young, and 2015 would have put him just under 2 years old, we were really fortunate because my wife worked right beside the hospital where her parents were. And that was just brilliant. The second brilliant piece was the daycare was right in the bottom of her work. And that was wonderful. It was easy for me to swing by after work, and then we'd pick up Owen, and then we'd go home. When traffic was bad, usually it was because there was a major accident on one of the roadways, an accident on the bridge, so that made the bridge single lane traffic, or closed the bridge. Or it snowed. Take your pick. But as long as I had Siobhan and Owen with me, that was easier to deal with. When the in-laws went into the hospital, it was a pretty emotional time for everybody, obviously. And so that led to longer days for not only us, but for Owen as well. And we pushed pickup time because we were in the hospital trying to get updates and just being with them. You know, we pick Owen up at 6:30 on the nose every single time, and we just walk across the street. It works, it was awesome, but then you had to fight traffic to get back home. So picking him up later on worked some days, but then trying to get home, like, you're not home until 7 or 7:30. Have you even had dinner yet? And then, of course, once you get home, you have to deal with laundry, getting ready for the next day, because you're going to do it all over again. So later in the podcast, I'm going to bring up about avoiding restaurants, going to a grocery store. But before I get into that, I want to bring up one really, really, really critical thing that's saved our butts. And that is front loading. In the times when traffic was bad and it was taking a long time to get home, Owen doesn't want to be in his car seat, far from it, wants out. When we knew that we couldn't make it over the bridge in time, or at least in a reasonable amount of time, one of the bridges, we would try and stop at McDonald's or no, it was McDonald's. I'd say another restaurant, but no. So he would get a chance to sit there, go stretch his legs and run around. The struggle was trying to leave McDonald's. At least you could say to him, at least you could give him something to look forward to. If we can make it to this street and this is okay, then, we can go to McDonald's. Something like that. And then his mind would be taken off the fact that it's been 2 hours in the car. Part of the reason front loading worked as well as it did was he was scared. He didn't want to be in the car. Why am I in the car for this long? What did I do wrong? I don't know all the things that would have been going through his head, but he, at that young age, again, we knew something wasn't quite quote unquote right. Giving him steps on what was going to happen next was a lifesaver for us. And eventually we learned how to make, sort of the bigger goals, but also work them in with the smaller ones. And that was a very, very, very big help for us. And always try and keep an emergency stash of treats in the car. That was also a good idea. Maybe before I go into the advice that I've got and gathered, I think it's really a fair thing to start with to say, you are not going to get it all done. And the idea of getting it, quote unquote, all done, I think is just an illusion. The laundry is never going to be finished. And the reason the laundry won't be finished is because you're always going to be adding more to it. Once you get everything cleared out of your laundry hamper and you put it all in, you're still wearing the clothes that, well, you probably are wearing right now. So you have to add that into the laundry later on. What are you going to do? Walk around in your underwear? No. Just create a reasonable expectation of how much laundry is acceptable to you. The dishes, yes, they'll go away, but there will always be more dishes. Don't get hung up on the idea that you're going to be able to do it all. It's physically not possible. Mentally, you're just going to strain yourself. And worst of all, you're not being kind to yourself either. One strategy that you could try is, instead of doing it all, just choose one thing that is really near and dear. Like, it really bugs you when the dishes are left out or the cups are left out in the living room. So when you get home and you're scrambling to get ready for the next day, just do that one thing. At least then when you leave the house, you have something crossed off your list that you would have had on your mind as you went throughout the rest of your day, and it would just add more stress knowing that it was never done. And anybody with ADHD will know that that one thing could throw everything off, because switching gears and switching tracks is easy for us, right? Right? Anybody? No? No, it's not easy for us at all. Another strategy is get things done ahead of time. We all have a garbage day. We all have a recycling day. So instead of waiting till the night before to get your garbage in order, to get your recycling in order, do it 2 days before. And if you have a garage, don't wheel it out 1 day before, wheel it out 2 days before, or 3. If you don't have a garage and your strata doesn't mind, just bring it out to the curb 2 days early. Leave your lights on. Don't turn off your outside lights. Just leave them on. You may very well forget, I know, I did far too many times, to turn them on and then turn them off, and then you're thinking, as you're dealing with some sort of stressful situation away from the home, did I turn off the lights? Oh no. It's not worth the hassle. And think about the amount of pennies that an LED light uses now. I would, however, recommend getting a lighting system. And the one that we have in the house and have had for a few years is from Philips, and it's called Hue. I know Costco's got one. There's other versions out there as well, but it's basically lights that you can dim, change colors, all do it from your phone. That is a game changer. And you can even set a schedule for it as well. So back a couple years ago, before we had this, we didn't have access to a really good tool like that. And I would stress over whether or not the lights were turned on. Oh, I want to get home and make sure the outside lights are on. Just leave them on. And the same goes for your inside lights. Hook up a system like Hue to your inside lights. But if you don't have access to a system like that, just leave them on. When you have a lighting system that can change colors, in a lot of the schools, a lot of the daycares, they have this system called the zones of regulation. Personally, I'm not that big of a fan of it. But sometimes you need a visual cue to help show your child that they're angry, or maybe they're happy or feel silly. But if they're mad, take out your phone, open up the app, change the light color to red. Oh, Bobby, it looks like you're really mad right now. Wait a minute, the lights, they've changed color. The lights know you're angry. Is that how you feel? It can be a really effective visual tool to help redirect someone who is, or a child who is dysregulated and just needing help and scared. Maybe what you can do afterwards is have your child play with the lights and change them to a color where, this is the mood that they're feeling, and give them that power and control to define it. You can also get ahead of things by giving your child the app and letting them choose the color themselves. This way, they begin to recognize what their moods are and maybe what the colors are associated with it. And then you can work in some language to that. Hey, Billy, can you show me what color you're feeling right now? The color you feel is purple, and that's maybe when you're feeling a little down. It becomes a non-intrusive way of asking somebody to explain how they feel just to demonstrate how they're feeling or what they're feeling without resorting to words. Take turns with your partner doing different chores. If you're always doing the same chore, it's going to get repetitive. Maybe she's cleaning the litter box, but you're not, and you haven't done it yet. Well, switch off for a week or two and you go do it. Or if he's the one always making the bed, you go and make the bed. If you can use this as a communication tool to know what your objectives are when you get home before you have to head out again, or when something happens, then you know what everybody's role is, what the chores are that need to be done. You most likely won't run into the situation of, I don't know how to do such and such. My partner always does it. Well, no, you need to step up and learn how to do all those pieces as well. Or else it's not fair. It becomes one-sided. And when chores and those things that we have to do at home, those operational things become stale, resentment's going to form. And that isn't good. You don't want that. It's also a really awesome opportunity to find out how your partner likes something done. And I'm going to take my wife and I for example on this. I always make the bed. I always make the bed because there's a certain way that I want to go into bed every night, and I just want the covers to feel. It absolutely drives everybody in the house bonkers that I make the bed my specific way. And I'll tell you the secret. As long as the cover sheet is tucked into the mattress, down by the feet, honest to God, that's all I care about. The problem is that I will, if the kids were to make the bed or my wife was to make the bed and they did it, I would have a really hard time not stepping in and fixing the bed and remaking the entire thing and just making sure that one aspect is done. My problem is that when it's not done like that, it just makes for an uncomfortable sleep for me. I really don't know why or what's led to it, but it is probably my favorite thing in the world. And maybe find a way to gamify it. If you do something one week and your partner does something the other week, whoever takes on the next week gets to decide, I don't know, the other person has got to drink a different flavored Starbucks than what they normally would. That may not be the best example, but come up with what works for you and your partner. And one final general room/house tip: create a safe space for the both of you. Have it be a different spot than the other person. Our children have got a safe space, so why can't we as adults have one as well? That gives you a chance to hide for a bit, hide from the world, and somebody can look after the rest of what's going on. And I understand that it may be hard to do that in a small place. We live in a 2-bedroom. That is, with 2 kids, like, there isn't enough space. We are on top of each other. And that makes it challenging. That safe space could actually be going for a walk alone with a cup of coffee and a podcast, just being away from the house. That safe space could be going to the hardware store, changing the locks on the door to actually have locks that children don't know how to pick open, and taking a bath. It could be putting a lock on the bedroom door and just reading a book. Anything that's away from the world where you can't hear anything. One other thing that we did when we were out and about a lot was we had these power bricks to charge our phones. If we didn't have access to a USB port where we could plug into the wall, these power bricks would allow us to charge our phones. And they were great because you didn't have to stress about finding something, you just had to make sure that they were charged. So if you had, 4 of them, that probably covers you for the entire week. Charge them on the weekend or whenever you have a free chance. And if your child decides that they need some screen time to unwind, well, you're not going to be out the power that they're using up by watching YouTube or Disney or whatever platform that you let them watch. You will have that extra power in reserve. Let's move into the kitchen area and talk about some ideas and strategies there. A lot of us already know about getting frozen meals or buying an Instant Pot, slow cooker, you name it. Make a batch of meals ahead of time, put them in the freezer, take them out. If that doesn't work and you're still gaining confidence as a cook in the kitchen, go get some frozen meals from your favorite restaurant or the grocery store. Put those in there. Have them ready to go. And I think it's really important to mention that whatever meals you decide to make and eat and consume, make sure you've got your fair share of vegetables in there. You need to keep your body nourished as it's stressed, and nothing does that better than veggies. We also brought along our food, and we brought along a lot of extra snacks. Not only would we be hungry, but our kids would be hungry as well. This way, And bring whatever you want. Go get a bag of chips from Costco. Take that with you. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than going to the convenience store and taking something from there. Talking about the kids, have extra stuff for the kids. Things like multiple bottles, multiple water containers. Don't be reliant, if you can help it, on just 1 or 2 sets. Get 3 or 4. This way, it saves you time from having to do and spend time on dishes, time that you probably don't have. And the same goes for lunch kits. Maybe have extra lunch kits around. One thing that I do when I prepare the kids' food for the week is, be hard to describe in a podcast without seeing a picture, but I put all the kids out in their specific Tupperware containers. I grab large freezer bags, and basically each day I pack up all the kids' food into that bag. So one child has one bag, the other child has the other. Of course, they're 2 entirely different people, so they'll eat different things. But all I do is grab the bag that I need for that day, and that's it. I just put it into their lunchbox. One thing that doing all this prep ahead of time is going to allow you to do is save money. You can avoid the restaurants. You can avoid the convenience stores. You can avoid the vending machines because you've got everything. Use those places as a treat or something extra, something special. And instead of going to a restaurant, go to the grocery store. Grocery stores are far cheaper, far more economical. You get more, and you have a huge arrangement of food that you can easily get. I mean, you can walk away with everything out of a grocery store to make your own sandwich. Pretty simple. Bring the rest home for leftovers when you get home that night. Just put it in the fridge. By the time you're done spending $20, $25 at a grocery store, if you've gone to a restaurant, that same amount might only get you a small bit of leftovers. However, at the grocery store, you've probably got a couple days worth of food. When it comes down to eating dinner, don't use regular plates. Use paper plates. Preferably, use ones that you can recycle as well. This way, instead of having to put dirty dishes in the dishwasher, wash them, wait, take them out, and create an extra task, you can just put them into the recycling, into the food waste. It's far easier. When things were tough for us a couple years ago, we didn't have access to plates that we could recycle like we do now. Which sucked because that's a landfill full of plates. So go check the dollar store, check Costco, see where you can get just a bulk set of plates and cups that you can just toss away afterwards and recycle them, and you don't have to do any of the dishes. Maybe on the cutlery end, you want to use your own knives and forks and spoons. That I completely understand. I know I don't like the plastic cutlery. I'd rather use my own. It just gives me that little bit more of a I'm at home feeling. Building on the idea of having multiple things. Back at one of my old jobs when I got really into working out, I would have multiple sets of gym clothes. So instead of having 1 or 2 shirts, I probably had like 4 or 5 shirts to go work out in. And what was nice was I would just grab my stuff and go in the morning. And then when I come home, I've already got an extra set ready to go. And I would often have separate bags just so I could bring that with me. Think of it as a grab and go bag, but for gym stuff. I would also leave a spare pair of headphones at work as well, just in case I forgot something at home. That was really helpful, just to have a backup. If there is a downside to any of this of having multiples, the worst is going to be a whole bunch of extra laundry on the weekend. And that's why I started the beginning of the episode just saying laundry never ends, because it never does. But at least you don't have to stress about having to look for half your stuff. And there you have it. About as many practical tips as I could figure that we did, all jammed into this episode. Honestly, going back and picking my brain and talking to my wife, trying to remember everything that we did, we just realized, the both of us realized just how stressful things were. So please, I know I've said it before, but be kind to yourself. We're not superheroes. We can't do it all. Even though society tells us that we're superheroes, apparently, we can't do it all. But what we can do and what is within our control is to treat each other with respect, kindness, love, and that extends to everybody that you come across. So wherever you are in the world listening to this, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to our show.
So the other day I was on the couch and I was listening to my AirPods. I went to get up, go do something else. Got distracted, went to do other things. I was about to go to bed and I realized, I should listen to such and such video, and I went to look for my AirPods. Couldn't find them. So as I began to look for the AirPods, I looked in the usual places like the fridge, the freezer, pants, the car, the kids' room, the laundry basket. I thought I washed them in the laundry, checked that, nothing. I seriously could not remember where I put them. I eventually found them the next day. They had fallen into a basket that was beside our couch. And honestly, I feel ripped off. Why couldn't I have found them in the freezer or the oven? Why couldn't they have been in a normal place like that? Why couldn't they have been in a place that was weird and unusual, not just in the basket? I must have walked by them about 20 times. If you're hearing this message, you've reached the end of the episode, and for that, I want to say thank you. I hope you have enjoyed what you've heard and are walking away with newfound knowledge.
We are the ADHD family.
See you soon for a new episode. I have 3 things to ask of you. Number 1, if you have any comments, questions, or guest ideas, please leave a comment on the Facebook page. Number 2, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps people find us. And number 3, if you want to be a guest on the show or know someone who would make a great guest, contact me through our Facebook page. This podcast is open to everyone. You don't need to be an expert, just passionate and want to see change. The opinions expressed by the host and guest are not associated with any employer or organization unless otherwise stated. Any medical information on this site and podcast is provided as an information resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostic or treatment purposes. This information does not create any patient-physician relationship and should not be used as a substitute for a professional diagnosis and treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or guidance about a specific medical condition. The show, host, and its guests expressly disclaim responsibility and shall have no liability for any damages, loss, injury, or liability whatsoever suffered as a result of your reliance on the information contained in this site or show. By visiting this site and listening to this show, you agree to the You agree to the terms and conditions, which may from time to time change or be supplemented by the show host.